We don't have to take our clothes off to have a good time. It's the Review a New podcast with your host John and Talking of Evan. I'm your host John, aka I feel like we have to have like a...
It took me a second. I was like, "What? Because I'm
you can't be silent.
I'm not silent. Yeah, that would be a bad look for a podcast.
Yeah, Penn and Teller could not have a podcast. And we're here to talk about movies because we were going to do it anyway, so we might as well record it.
Yep, literally, the genesis of this was we were having this really long conversation about Chasing Amy, and we went, "Wait, we should."
We're talking about this way too much. We need to do something with this. So now we're getting into the post View Askew universe work, and we're getting into because this came after Clerks 2.
Yeah, Clerks 2 was 2004. 2006?
Because this was 2008.
This was 2008. Because I looked it up for the timeline because I was surprised at how I guess it didn't surprise me that much, but it feels much more removed from the View Askew universe. So you had 2004 what was that?
I think that might have been his. Was that movie with Ben Affleck or 2003 or something?
No, Jay and Silent Bob. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was 01, and then something happened in 2004.
Jersey Girl was like 2003.
That might have been Jersey Girl, and then Clerks 2 was I think 2006. Well, let me look it up now because we have these magical little machines in our pocket that will tell us when movies came out. I'm much more excited for Clerks 3 than I am for the reboot. I'll put it that way. I'm very excited that Clerks 3 is happening. Did we talk about that last time? I can't remember.
No, we didn't talk about that yet.
So I saw this on Instagram. So there's been some kind of whole thing with Jeff Anderson and Kevin Smith for years, and it's been known that there's not going to be a Clerks 3 because Jeff Anderson won't do it. And he's been very clear he's not going to do it. And then there was some kind of they got together to sign a bunch of merch that was getting sold, and apparently they had a really good long talk, and now they're going to do Clerks 3, which I'm really, really happy and excited about. Because Brian O'Halloran is very active. He goes to fan things, he goes to conventions, all this stuff, and he's very into being part of the View Askew universe. Jeff Anderson, not so much. I don't think he even has an Instagram. But apparently, whatever they talked about convinced him to be on board for Clerks 3. So that is happening. I'm very happy with that.
Okay, so Jay and Silent Bob was 01. Jersey Girl was 04. Clerks was...
Yeah. Clerks 2 was 06. By the way, I feel awkward about Rosario Dawson now because apparently she and her mom beat up a guy who was...
What?
Yeah, no, apparently there was a guy who was working for their family, and they kind of, he was from the East Coast, and they said, hey, move out here to the West Coast, and we'll put you up, and you can work for us. And he was living in, their guest house.
Rosario Dawson's guest house.
Yeah, well, it was her and her mom. I'm not sure who owns the house, but anyway, but it was, the family house, and this guy lives in the guest house, and he's FTM, he's trans, and when he came out, Rosario Dawson was saying stuff like you're a grown-ass woman to him, and then apparently this all culminated in her and her mom holding this guy down and beating the shit out of him.
What?
So so I was really shocked. I don't know.
Wait, what in the world? This can't be.
Yeah, no, I saw the headline.
I can't believe this.
I saw the headline too that she got in trouble for beating this guy up, and I was like, there's got to be something else to it. And I read the story. I was like, holy shit, this is so much.
Oh my god!
I figured she got into a fight with somebody at a bar. I figured it was some kind of altercation or whatever, but no, this is somebody that she knows that she just was really awful to.
Okay, so this is what I originally the thing that I had heard about with Rosario Dawson lately was some boring.
Oh, by the way, I should say allegedly, it's all a lawsuit that's in process. So, it hasn't. It's still sort of in progress. In theory, this is what happened, but it's possible that it didn't go down exactly like that. But still, it's at the point where the lawsuit is happening. So
wow, that's insane. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yeah, and apparently...
That's insane.
Yeah, a lot of it,
I'm reading it right now.
Her mom was, chasing this guy around and threatening him. And I don't know.
Oh my
God. They, dragged him through a screen door.
Oh, my God! You're not so much of a man now. Jesus, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Yeah, this was... I don't know what it was. I would not have thought. But yeah, apparently Rosario Dawson and her mom, just attacked this guy who was working for them and living on their property.
Yeah, Fonnie says that Dawson then approached them, and instead of helping, she pinned him down so her mother could keep on punching. Yeah, this is what the article says. But that's...
I mean, and
wow,
this is...
man.
and I looked it up. This is on LGBTQ Nation, but I looked it up for from a couple different
what in the
sources.
world?
So, yeah.
I'm seeing other websites.
So,
the Ruby.
anyway, if you did that, Rosario Dawson, shame on you.
Oh my god.
Shame, and we rescind our thirst corner.
Oh, that was so out of butt fucking nowhere. I wasn't expecting that shit. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's like insane.
I was very shocked. But yeah, so Clerks 2 was in 2006, which was the year I graduated high school, and then Zack and Miri came out in 2008, where I was in college, and I was just thinking about this because I didn't realize until after I had rewatched the movie that I didn't think about it. It's like, this movie is over a decade old, and there's something very weird about stuff that came out right when I was in high school and college.
It's like right at that sweet spot where the movies are like...
It feels both like, because now I'm, in my early 30s, and stuff that happened when I was like a young adult both feels like, oh, that's always been around, and also like
Judd Apatow movies,
and like Judd Apatow movies are like the perfect example, like 40-Year-Old Virgin. These movies, it's like, oh, that's always been around, but also at the same time it feels like it just came out. Like, how did it come out that long ago? So the fact that Zack and Miri came out over a decade ago is kind of weird, and I remember watching it and thinking like, wow, Elizabeth Banks and Seth Rogen look so young in this. Wow, I wonder, like,
especially when he shaves the beard. Oh my god!
But it didn't like occur to me until after I watched the movie and checked the release date. Like, oh, they actually were very young. Yeah. I just thought, oh wow, they look really good here. It didn't occur to me like, oh, they are babies.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think everyone like does look really good in this movie. Though it is a very well shot movie.
I mean, which is good because it's like, we see a lot. We see a lot of skin, and if they were not,
that's what I was thinking.
I mean, like everybody looks good in it. What's the dude, the producer dude? I know him from Craig Robinson. Yeah. I know him from Eastbound and Down,
and he was in The Office, right? At one point.
He might have been. I never watched
later
The Office.
On. Yeah.
But he's Eastbound and Down, and he's Doug Judy, which I always have such a hard time not saying Judge Judy on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he also. So the big thing, the funny thing is, like, I saw the movie. What is it? This Is the End. No, and Hot Tub Time Machine. Basically, like, I can never remember his name, but every time I see him, he's like that guy, and I can name his entire fucking IMDb page. What was it? Is it called
This Is the End? Was a great movie.
This Is the End, which I really enjoyed, and I think that was actually the first thing I ever saw him in. Oh, wow. So the first thing I ever saw him in was him playing like an awful version of himself.
I love that movie so goddamn. I really do think that's like the zenith of like Seth Rogen. But
I love Channing Tatum's cameo.
I love Michael Cera in that movie. Actually,
we should talk about This Is the End. So let's hold. Hold on some of that, and we'll do that. We'll do that some of these, because that is actually a lot of people, involved in these. Yeah. So it's interesting because Seth Rogen kind of came, like, he was part of Judd Apatow's stable, and now and he's in a Kevin Smith movie and kind of jumped ship. Not jumped ship, but it almost feels like like a crossover.
Well, that was actually what I was like thinking about when I first went into this movie, because I was thinking like, okay, this is hot off the heels of Clerks 2. He's kind of like doing his thing. Seems like he's getting his groove back. Okay, he's gonna make Zack and Miri make a porno. Oh, it's a movie about a porno. Okay, Kevin Smith, he's gonna do a movie like this, but it had Seth Rogen. So okay, we're gonna give that Judd Apatow sheen, but in a way that Kevin Smith has the ups the gross out humor, but there's a level of thoughtfulness usually to his movies that's kind of like I like Judd Apatow movies, but they're not really like deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a very sweet movie, and there's a lot to it. And then of course you do have Jason Mewes in it.
Yes,
who is
incredible,
adorable. It's very fun getting to see him play somebody other than Jay, even though Lester is arguably just the porn star version of Jay.
When he calls himself Lester the molester, and it's like, oh, that's a great porn name. He's like, oh, we should think of porn names.
So Lester is arguably very similar to Jay, but he's still different. He's
not like horn dog trying to, but he's not that character.
That's kind of the interesting thing, is that Lester is in a lot of ways much more innocent than Jay.
Yeah.
And even though he is literally, his profession is fucking, he's less of a horn dog than Jay. Maybe because, so he's very like matter of fact and sweet and innocent about the fucking.
Like he just goes like, I can squeeze my hands and get my penis really hard like immediately.
Yeah, like
he just says that. He doesn't say that like a brag. He's just kind of like, oh yeah, BT does. There's this thing I can do.
There's something sort of childlike about him, which is a little disturbing, but yeah. So Lester's a really fun strong character. And then you also have Jeff Anderson, which I've always been a little confused about whatever the drama was between him and Kevin Smith for years, because what I had heard was that there was something about he didn't get paid fast enough for Clerks 2 and he got mad about that and whatever. But he was in this movie 2 years later, so I don't know. I mean, that just goes to show you that the rumor mill is the rumor mill, and whatever was going on with him and between him and Kevin Smith, that's between them, and whatever, they're over it now enough to make Clerks 2, which I'm happy about. But so Jeff Anderson is also in here playing a very different character from Randall, or I guess, well, I mean, the only other character he ever played in a Kevin Smith movie was the gun shop guy, who was like a 2-second, that wasn't really a character.
No. So, getting into it, like I said, you know, I was going into this movie when I had first seen it, sort of going like, oh boy, yeah, we like Judd Apatow, but Kevin Smith is the guy who knows how to really, like, bring that, like, you know, thing together. And I remember watching this movie and thinking, like, this was way more, like, sweeter and, like, softer than I thought it was going to be. It was
very, I will put it this way, my mother, who thinks that Animal House is gross and was the beginning of the end of American cinema, my mother, who
it is a very gross film.
Like, no, but, like, my mom, like, is not, and, you know, she just doesn't like, you know, gross out humor. Like, she's always been very, like, that's, like, crude or whatever. And I mentioned this movie to her once, and she was like, I love Zack and Miri make a porno.
Yeah, that is the test right there. Yeah, no. If she likes this movie, it didn't do enough.
Well, but I don't know. I mean, I like the movie. I think it's I do like it. However, I first watched this movie, and like I said, this was part of why I was thrown off by realizing how old it was, because I didn't watch it when it first came out. I saw it for the first time less than a year ago, and I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was fairly recently. And then I rewatched it, and I remember just really enjoying it, and had, you know, I was just watching it for the first time for the story and the characters and the entertainment. Watching this again with a more critical eye, I definitely had some critiques, and a lot of it, and I feel I feel so mean about this because I just came off of Dogma criticizing the main actress's acting. I really did not care for Elizabeth Banks' acting in this.
Oh, okay.
And,
yeah.
And here's the thing, and part of this, when I checked the date and was like, oh, this is really old, because I know her to be a really good actress, and I specifically know her to be a good actress in stuff that is either really stylized or she's playing a character who's kind of stiff or weird in some way, because like Hunger Games, you know, she's playing this character who has a lot of artifice and is very fake in a lot of ways, and yet she still has that grain. She still has that grain of truth to her. And I think
she's just kind of like, I think she's not given good material in this movie. I'm just gonna say that.
So that is the separate thing, is that I do think the way her character is written is not the strongest and not the most sort of logically consistent. Yeah. But my issue with her acting, and this is where I will say she has grown, because if you look at her in Wet Hot American Summer, for instance, in the new the new-ish Netflix thing, you know, that's very stylized, and she's, you know, it's not like naturalistic at all, and yet she doesn't come off as fakey, she comes off as heightened, and in my opinion, and in this, I think part of the issue is she's kind of playing Miri as a bimbo, which is fine, but
well, I thought she was supposed to be like the cool girl best friend. Well,
you know, it's like, and you know what I'm saying? And that's part of the writing inconsistency, because I think that as conceived, the character is supposed to be this cool girl, and then she's also kind of a bimbo, and those two sides to the character don't really mesh, and so it's like the character doesn't seem very consistent. And part of it is also, you know, we'll get to the writing, but as someone with an acting degree, and I have been to acting school, one of the phrases that you might hear from actors or acting teachers is when somebody is judging the character. Because the thing is, you can play a character who is stupid, or you can play a character who's a bad person, you can play a character who has any number of flaws, but if you as an actor in the performance are thinking, this character's stupid, it comes through in a way that feels untruthful. And I feel like she was playing like, I'm a dumb bimbo sometimes, in a way that really comes through.
You know what, you're right, because I'm thinking about the scene in the, where she tries to have sex with the dude at the
right,
yeah, she's like relentlessly hitting on the dude who turns out to be gay.
Right, so yeah, and I was actually thinking about that, and if we don't mind me jumping ahead chronologically for a moment. So there's the scene that you just referenced at the high school reunion where she's, you know, hitting on this guy, and some of this is the writing. I'm not going to put this all on her shoulders. Some of this is the writing, but she's, you know, like really, really hitting on this guy hardcore, trying to get him to sleep with her, and she's very nervous, and she's very giggly, silly and awkward to the point that she seems much drunker than I think she's supposed to be at the moment. And she's not really playing drunk, she's just playing awkward. But then here's the other thing. So, spoiler alert, it's a rom-com. It's called Zack and Miri, blah, blah, blah. We know Zack and Miri are gonna fall in love and get together.
Yeah.
So about midway through, or, right before the climax, there's the scene where, Miri's talking to one of the other actresses, and she's like, hey, you and Zach have this great chemistry, and I feel like you guys really have something for each other. And she's like, oh, no, I can't think of him like that. We're just friends, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of pops up, and she goes, hi! And, like, and the whole rest of the scene, she's looking, and here's the thing, I get, plot mechanics-wise, yes, we are supposed to see, as the audience, we're supposed to go, oh, come on, she's in love with him. But you could be a little more subtle, because the whole rest of that scene, she's literally, like, the human embodiment of the heart eyes emoji.
Yeah.
It's like she's just taught, like, you could almost see heart emojis in her eyeballs.
Well, I mean,
and it's like, okay, I get that we're supposed to be able to see that she's in love with him, but she's going so hard with that it's like, girl, like.
Okay, so I actually, if we're getting into this, let's get into it. Because the scene after they have sex, right? Like the scene where they actually like have sex, and you can tell they're obviously passionately making love. And then afterwards, she like splays back after they all leave. And she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so in love with you." But then like the next day, when she wants to do like the set or whatever, she's just like, and they have the confrontation, which doesn't really like, which I'm kind of at odds with. But there's a specific point where she makes the point of like, "Oh, that wasn't love. Why are you getting all gooey on me?" And I'm like,
well,
what?
So
it's just so like.
So here's my hot take. Actually, that confrontation scene is, I think, the best acting we see from her in the entire film.
Oh, you think she's playing that?
I think no. Here's my hot take.
Okay.
So that scene, and it's like, all right, I realize that it is, from just a human perspective, we're going, why is she acting like that?
Yeah, she obviously was into him earlier.
Right, but here's the thing also, it's like, maybe you haven't, but, people act perverse sometimes when they're feeling strong emotions. And so she's being perverse, right? She is being perverse in that, like, she's clearly in love with him, and she is being mean, and she's pretending not to be.
Yeah, okay, you think she's playing it in the sense of, I'm not going to tell him what my feelings are.
Right, because, like, she did kind of test him in that, like, you were supposed to,
Dude, was so... I have no idea how to feel about that
right,
scene.
So here's the thing. All right, from a writing perspective, you could argue that it's a little bit of falling into the sexist trope of bitches be crazy and girls are playing games and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because it was just kind of like... Wait.
But at the same time, like, people, not even, like, making it about a specific gender or whatever, people do stuff like that. People can...
This is very true. But my thing is, I feel like it's not that the situation was bad. I feel like they didn't handle it in a way that handled the full scope of the emotion of that situation. So it felt like it ended up streamlined and simplified in a way that was just like, okay, so what does it... Because I feel like, okay, the movie is obviously dealing with themes of, like, what does it mean to, like, if you have sex with someone versus, like, being in love with them and having sex with them versus... Because, like, all right, here are these two roommates who've been together forever. Maybe they have feelings for each other, maybe they don't. Like, the whole thing is, like, do they actually feel for each other, or is it just sex? And it turns out to not be that way. But the way it unfolds is in this awkward way that's just like, wait, this person that you've been friends with for years, and it is like you're not being real with them on this level. And I say that specifically because there is a line in the movie where Seth says, we already talked about this, and we said that we've had long talks about this, and we said that this is only this. And so it's just like, okay, well, you set it up where this is only this. So if you're gonna go against that, like, it felt like if they were going to do that, it should have meant more in what was happening in the dialogue, in the sense of like, yo, maybe it didn't change for me. Something different really did happen. And it felt like instead of that, there was just this odd rejection of it that made the story just turn out to be like simply... So basically how this whole scene unfolds is Katie Morgan, by the way, Mini Thirst Corner, oh my fucking god, she's hot as shit.
Is that the little blonde one?
Yes,
really like,
yes.
I knew you were... As soon as her voice, she's got the voice. She's got the voice. I was like, I know.
And I had forgotten. I had forgotten. So like, because like I'm not a fan of Katie Morgan. I don't know her stuff at all, and I feel like I only specifically know her through this movie and like some pornocopia like HBO
and
documentary.
Also, like, and
that.
I want to say, and I'm not trying to just dump on Elizabeth Banks and dump on anyway. Sorry, just giving since we're just talking about Katie Morgan. Anyway, so I'm not trying to just drag Elizabeth Banks here because, like I said, I do think she's very talented, and I think that this also made me realize how much she's grown as an actress over the course of her career. But the fact that Katie Morgan, who as far as I know has really only acted in porn other than this, I think is a much better actress.
I did too. I was like, I was like, okay, I know she's supposed to just be like this like silly girl, but it's like she plays it really well. Like, I actually really like her.
Okay, granted, like she doesn't have quite as much emotionally challenging material.
True.
So what I wanted to say about that scene specifically is like I thought it was emotionally realistic, even though like yes, that behavior is infuriating, and I don't think it's like good behavior.
Yeah, but you think it's realistic to her character.
I think it's realistic. I think that a lot of times people do that kind of thing, and I think like this. Yes, there's a bit of a gender stereotype, but I think that people of all genders sometimes do that where she had the like, okay, I'm catching feelings for him, and I'm kind of aware of that, but like I want to make sure he has feelings for me before I stick my neck out. And so she does kind of test him when she sends Katie Morgan to hook up with him.
Yes.
And I will say that's like the fucking 45-second shot.
Oh my god. It was
like,
and it was just like playing it out so like that, if this was a moralizing movie, it would be saying having sex with like people who you're not trying to marry is the worst thing ever.
Well, that shot of the party where it's like slow motion and he's looking at her and she's like pouting at him from the couch.
Yeah, and it's like obviously there's an issue here.
I feel like if that shot, that's a complaint that I have editing wise. That shot should have been like 2 seconds. It should have been like him glancing at her, seeing her look a little bit sad for a second,
but this going like
right, like it was like, come on, like, are you hammering it in any further? So I'm sorry, like I'm gonna have so many like that's what she said moments. So she goes, I'm catching feelings for him, but I'm not gonna stick my neck out. I'm gonna test him. Okay, I guess he doesn't really have feelings for me. Well, fuck him. I don't have feelings for him either. I'm moving on. And so her behavior in that scene where she's decided that she's not going to have feelings for him, even though she really does, and she's mad at him, but she's not going to admit that she's mad at him and blah, blah, blah. Like, that, I felt like her being perverse and being mean and being dishonest about her own feelings, like, that performance there felt very real because in that moment she was just playing that truth. It's interesting to say she's playing dishonesty truthfully, but she was the whole like, and she wasn't doing the big smiley giggly I'm so in love, I'm so in love. And when and I guess also closer to the beginning when she was just being buddy also felt pretty, but whenever she was trying to play in love with him, it was just like boom, the flip switch. I guess that's the issue, is that for so much of the movie she's playing being in love, and it just felt bullshit. So here's what I'm saying. Like I can go with what you're saying, but I feel like the problem is the way it's set up. It sets me up in a way that made me feel awkward about how the situation unfolded. Because okay, so I went back just to make sure I got the wording right. So remember, she says, I said it was okay for her to ask you if you would have sex with him, and like what happens in the scene is she goes like, oh yeah, it's okay for you to ask him, it's fine, and like Katie's like, are you sure? Because I wouldn't want to get between anything. And she's like, no, it's cool. And it's like, that right there is where she fucked up. It's just like... Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think the movie wants us to think that Miri's behavior is okay. Like, I think... No, but what I mean is it's just like, it's so obviously like, okay, she messed up by not telling her that she actually might have felt some type of way. And so what it becomes about is her not telling the truth instead of the actual idea of sex versus love and can you have sex and, Harry Met Sally type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of having that discussion, it just becomes about she didn't tell the truth. I see what you're saying. So yeah, so you're saying that basically like this movie was, the idea of it is exploring the idea of can you just have sex with somebody without catching feelings for them, and it sidesteps it by making it about, because the thing is, if Miri had been honest and said, no, I think I might have feelings for him, and it hadn't been that drama, then we might have had this discussion of like them being honest but saying, but we agreed to not, and blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
exactly.
And it might have been a different discussion.
Because instead it just becomes, oh, but then he had sex with her, so that bad. And it's like, well, is it? Is it that bad? I don't know. If you guys actually liked each other, then maybe you could have just... And then, what does it turn out? He didn't have sex with her, and she didn't have sex with the other guy that she said she was going to have sex with. And the way the movie treats it is as if it's this like revelatory moment. Like, what? You didn't do it either? Yay, now we're hugging and we're happy. It's like, what difference would it have made if they had, you know what I mean?
Right, because it does seem, and in some ways, like, the movie is a little bit conservative in that way. I mean, like, not, like, you know, like, small c conservative in that it is that, like, oh, it's okay because they didn't actually defile themselves by having sex with Katie and or Lester. And the other thing that occurs to me is Bubbles and what's his face?
Oh, yeah,
I can't remember.
The big flop hair, yeah.
Ginger, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, I'm gonna call him Ginger. So Bubbles and Ginger, you know, so Bubbles is a professional, you know, sex performer
played by Tracy Lords.
Right. And she's fantastic. And then there's this guy who, you know, we don't really know much about him other than he shows up to the audition and is clearly very comfortable with the idea of being in porn, but we don't know if he's done porn before, but in any case is totally comfortable with it. So you have somebody who is a seasoned porn performer and somebody who at the very least is a comfortable porn performer, if not seasoned, and they have sex, and of course they end up being a couple and being in love. And it was a little odd because it's like, on the one hand, they clearly have an unconventional relationship in that, like, they're, you know, they're kinky and that, you know, she penetrates him, and it's, you know, like, it's an unconventional relationship, but it's still a little bit of like, well, they had sex and now they're in love.
Because, where did that come from?
And we also don't see Bubbles fucking anybody but Ginger, and we don't see Ginger fucking anybody but Bubbles, I don't think. No. So it is like, okay, so we see Zack and Miri only fuck each other, and of course they're in love.
Yeah.
Bubbles and Ginger only fuck each other, and of course they're in love. And then, you know, Lester and Katie only fuck each other, and they are not, like, they don't seem to be together at the end of the film, but we also don't see them with anybody else.
Yeah, and in a way they were kind of like the possible corrupting forces for the...
Yeah, and it's like, Lester is interesting to me because, you know, I think, to me, Lester and Katie, I can't remember what Katie's character's name is, so I'm just calling her Katie.
Yeah.
So Lester and Katie are interesting because they are both very sweet, likable, positive, and very sex positive, and very professional and very unemotional.
Yeah, they're just really cool. She's like, oh yeah, I want to have sex with that guy. I like his dick. Like,
right, they're very cool about it. So like, they're sort of the only counterbalance we have in that they're not seen as like, when Katie is like gonna possibly go have sex with Zack, it's not like, oh, this bad mean slut who might, she's not a Baxter. She's not this, like, the bad one who might take him away from his one true love.
Yeah, see, I think that is interesting. The corrupting forces don't get portrayed as, like, evil or malicious.
Right, like, so, and Lester at the end, it's like, you know, he's seen as a, you know, pretty nice guy who moves in with Miri to help with the rent, and when she says, you know, no, I don't want to have sex with you, he's like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine, and, you know, and is just there being very openly sexual, but also, you know, having taken Miri's no for an answer.
Yeah, I guess the subversion is nice.
Yeah, so I really like Lester and I like Katie's character because I think they're the only things that are keeping the film from being a straight up,
moralizing,
sex must always lead to love in a monogamous relationship or it's bad, because they're, you know, they're both ethical, likable sluts. They're both people who are like, sex is just this fun thing I do for money, and that's fine.
Yeah, in fact, when she takes him to the room and it's supposed to be this long, drawn-out scene, I'm just sitting there just going like, I don't know, man, she doesn't seem... What are you doing? She's hot. Like, yeah, she's fine with it. What's the problem?
You know, because...
I don't know, man.
Well, because he has started to catch feelings for Miri.
No, but what I mean is, like, she's such a cool person that it's like, it ruins any of the tension. That, first of all, the scene shouldn't have been that long, like you said, but any of the tension that even was there is just kind of like, but it's not like you're going like, no, not her, she's bad for you. It's just like, I don't know, she's fine.
Well,
you know,
I think the idea is, no, not her, she's perfectly nice, there's nothing wrong with her, but you know that's gonna make you and Miri feel bad.
But then, like I said, if there even was the tension of so-and-so did have sex with somebody, like, how does that change how they feel about each other or about how the plot would unfold either way? Like, because when he says, oh, I didn't have sex with her, And she's like, oh man, but she feels bad about it. And then he like leaves and gets angry, and then it cuts to 3 fucking months later, and he had moved out and all. It just feels like that just acceleration, just, you know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing, and so that's the classic sitcom moment of the big fight between the couple because of a misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. He doesn't actually say, I didn't have sex with her.
Oh, he says, what if I didn't?
He says, what if I didn't, which we know he actually didn't, but she seems to take as, he's just saying that as a hypothetical.
Oh, I thought she got angry, though, because I thought she was getting angry at herself for, like, crap, I overreacted, no, I was mad. I thought that was what was wrong.
I don't know. I took that as, because it is kind of ambiguous, mm-hmm. and when...
He says that he actually didn't at the tail end, when he bangs on the door, and
right, at the very end, the 3 months later, but no, because he says, somebody tells her, I think, doesn't she say in that coda, she says something like, oh, she told me that you didn't have sex, but when he says, what if I didn't, she takes that as just a hypothetical, and you know, and I think it's that moment of like, obviously, she's playing games, she's being mean, she's, you know, overreacting, but then at the same time, he overreacts by packing up and leaving the house.
Right! It's like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Leaving somebody that he knows is broke as fuck, which, by the way... Did we ever find out, like, does Miri have a job?
Okay, so let's talk, because I think there's one scene where he goes, like, where someone says, like, I'm good at doing coffee or whatever, and you're good at what you're good at. And I'm like, yeah, what the fuck does she do?
Yeah, because, and this is one thing where it's like, you can tell, you know, I don't think it's, like, egregious, but you can kind of tell at this point that Kevin Smith has been wealthy for a long time, and and also, you know, I don't know. I've read some of his autobiography, and I genuinely don't know if he has ever been in quite the position that Zack and Miri are in, because
where they're like months behind on rent.
Right, because with Clerks, particularly with the first Clerks movie, you know, they're working minimum wage jobs, but they're also living with their parents.
Yeah.
And I think in Clerks 2, at least Randall's still living with his parents, and Dante is, I think, living with his fiance, who seems to have a grown-up job of some kind or family money. So, you know, the idea of being the kind of broke where you can't fall back on family and where you are really fucked and you're gonna be homeless if you don't, you know, figure something out. I'm not sure that's a position he's ever been in.
The movie should have had a bit more sense of emergency.
Well, I do, like, for one thing, and maybe this wasn't true in 2008, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to turn off people's power in the winter in a place like Pittsburgh.
And there was something about, like, them being behind on the rent that, like, there was something really awkward about the way it was handled. Because I remember there's one point later in the movie where the lights get turned back on, and because that's when the party happens, right? And they're like, oh, we turned your lights back on, and even though you're a couple of months behind on rent, but, you know, they're going to cover you for now, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a, like, this isn't all your problems solved, but it's a little bit of a band-aid. But one thing was like, okay, so, again, like, we never see any mention of Miri having a job, and it's like, one hopes she has a job.
But, yes, very true. But what I was saying, specifically, okay, there's a part in the middle of the movie, a plot twist that I actually do enjoy. So they're coming up with the porn names, and they come up with Star Whores, so it becomes, you know, the whore, like, okay, this is gonna be the joke now, it's fucking Kevin Smith, here's your fucking Star Wars reference, we're gonna go crazy with it, but then halfway through, boom, construction place comes in, and they break it down. I love that little twist,
I really liked that, because on the one hand, seeing it, well, and it's a nice sort of, like, progress and setback. I thought it was a very skillful moment of craft there, because, it's like, we want to see them just have a good idea, run with it, and get pretty far with it, because, like, yes, it's fun to see them doing really well, frankly, improbably well, with how good everything looks for Star Wars. You know, because I think if they had jumped straight to doing it in the cafe, it would have been like, come on, guys, you couldn't have done any better than that, really. But having the, like, you know, getting so close to success, and then having everything crumble around them, and having them have to sort of start from before square one, I thought that was very satisfying.
Yeah. So we do have, I do like the aesthetic again, you know, Kevin Smith working within a different type of service job, but, you know, that's kind of his thing. And flipping the idea of, like, okay, him being, you know, like, this guy is making a movie, you know, at his job. But doesn't it feel like, I just feel like, in a sense, they don't go far enough with that real, like, idea, because, again, it gets sidetracked with these.
There were things that did feel sort of improbably, again, it just comes back to, like, and I'm not, again, I've seen much worse. This is not, like, the Friends apartment level of unrealistic, but, like, okay, so Zach, I think maybe we're meant to take that Miri works at, like, a clothing shop or something part-time, but, people who, at the very least, are both living on minimum wage part-time jobs, and they're super behind on their bills, but it's like, okay, we see the, like, basket full of unpaid bills, and it's kind of, like, cute in a way that's like, okay, but, like, what are the consequences?
Yeah, what are they doing to pay for this shit?
And when he, like, maxes out his credit card buying a fleshlight on a whim, it's like,
I think that was it. I was like, wait a minute.
It's not to say that people don't make dumb decisions and buy shit that they probably shouldn't when they're broke. Like, that happens, absolutely.
But it feels like it should matter more to the narrative, right?
It just feels like, and then frankly, like, the risks that they take at work, and, like, the way they...
Yeah, they're filming at work. Like, it feels like more should have happened with, like, the Indian store owners. You know what I mean?
Right, like, that felt like... Because to me, it's like, he should have been more scared of losing that job.
Yes.
That's the thing, is because I've been in positions where, like, there's some shitty minimum wage job that, like, I'm genuinely scared of. If I lose that job, what's gonna happen? I think everybody who's been in that position, it's like, the feeling of, like, yes, I hate this job, but particularly in 2008 when the economy had crashed, which I don't know what the timing was when he was writing the screenplay, but at the very least, 2008, 2009, if you had that shitty minimum wage job, you were clinging on to it for dear life, and the idea of, like, oh, fuck this, whatever, and, like, kind of just blatantly, like...
Yeah, well, there's a part where he goes, like, I fuck on these counters all the time, so let's make scenes where we're just fucking and everything. It's like, really? Your store, the guy who's your boss is not going to give you any trouble for, like, he's not going to find anything, Like,
yeah, and, like, particularly when they, like, open up a bag of coffee beans and spill them all over for, like, first of all, like, who actually needs to see coffee beans raining on people? Like, we're here to see the fucking, we don't need that. But also, do you guys not do inventory?
That's what I'm saying.
So I did feel like there was a little bit of the stakes not feeling quite real about the brokenness, because it was like, when they go to a bar and they're sitting there drinking beer at a bar that they purchased at the bar when they're so broke that blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm sorry, have you not been so broke that you literally can't buy a beer at a bar? Because I have, and I know a lot of people who are like, well, I'd like to go out and get it.
I'm not just chilling at a bar,
Yeah, literally, I still have friends who sometimes are in the position of, I'd like to go out, but I literally cannot afford to put gas in my car and go buy one beer at a bar. But
because they have to have the scene where, they're down and out and have it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, it feels like a part of the aesthetic more of, like, the reality of what they're going through.
And this is not, like, and none of this is to shame anybody who is, like, broke and miserable and it's like, well, I don't have $50 for my bills, but I've got $10 and I can go buy a beer or whatever. If you can do that and that's what's going to keep you sane in that moment, by all means. This is not saying, like, well, those poor shouldn't be buying anything fun.
But there's just so much flippant,
But it's saying, like, it doesn't, I feel like there's a difference between somebody who actually knows what it is to say, this is my last $5 and fucking I'm gonna spend it on a beer, and somebody who just doesn't think about the fact that beer, like, when you are that broke, you're thinking about the $5 you spend on that beer. Like, I've literally, like, I used to wait tables, and I waited on somebody who had to, like, pull change out of her pocket to pay for an unbuttered bagel. And, and the thing is, like, that's a position that people are in. That's a position of, like, I've got $4.50 in my bank account. I can't get any cash out of the ATM because I literally don't have $20 to get out of the ATM. But can I, spend my debit card on, like, $2 for a bag of fries?
Yeah.
Like, that just feels like a position that he's never been in, or at least was in so long ago, that writing these characters, and again, and I'm not trashing this movie. Like, I enjoyed it and I think it was very cute.
It doesn't feel as intricate into the narrative as
it doesn't feel quite as raw.
It
doesn't feel like the poverty of the characters feels a little bit painted
like cartoonish.
on.
Like they've got a fucking barrel thing that they're burning.
Where'd they get the barrel? Yeah, I didn't even think about the barrel. Where the hell did they get the barrel?
And they're doing that while they're doing the auditions.
Yeah, where did they get stuff to burn? And even one thing that I noticed in the movie was that both Zack and Miri have a collection of really beautiful,
nice clothes.
Well, their clothes, specifically their hats and scarves and mittens. It's like they have these beautiful brand new looking, brightly colored, handmade looking hats and scarves and mittens, and like multiple sets each. Like they both have like multiple covers of these and this colors, and this seems nitpicky, but it's one of those things where it seems like, you know, some Hollywood costumer is like, oh yeah, they're cold, and so here, let's put all these hats and scarves on them, and this is in this scene and that's in that scene.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who actually is like poor is not gonna have multiple really gorgeous scarves that they picked up for $20 at Target, or even more if somebody like handmade them for them and took months and like bought, you know, $40 worth of yarn for. And it's just one of those little things where it's like
the things add up, the elements add up, and it just kind of
yeah.
like,
And again, like this is I realize it sounds nitpicking. It's not so much that I'm looking for things to nitpick as I'm just like I have this sort of overall sense and impression of a lack of stakes and a lack of the poverty feeling real.
Yes, that's what
and
it
I'm
all
sort of
comes
trying
down
to point out the specific things that added up to that impression.
So in terms of like the gags in this movie, they really are a little disappointing for me. Like the first gag is he puts the hand warmer thing on his balls, and then the whole gag is just 30 seconds later he jumps out of the car and has to get it out, and it takes a really long
I feel
time.
like
And it's just like
it could have gone farther.
Yeah,
I feel like in like a View Askewniverse movie, I feel like it would have gone farther because
it never mattered.
All it adds up to is I singed my balls, but like
it's not like you see it or anything.
But well, also it's like if you think about like, and again, this is like for me, it comes to realistic consequences and stakes, and the gag going farther is because you could actually seriously injure yourself with those things, with those hand warmer things. You can seriously hurt yourself, especially if it's on your balls.
Well, I was thinking like it's a movie about them making a porno. Oh, is there gonna be a joke about like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually,
no, it's just
now that you point about it, it's like his balls seem to be just fine for the rest of the movie. Whereas like, what if like both for the sake of the joke and for the sake of like realistic consequences, he had gotten injured to the point that like his balls are like hurt or scabby
or just some sort of
like
thing. Lead to something.
Like it's like his balls actually come into play quite a bit in the rest of the movie, and yet we never hear anything about the fact that he really like, because in real life, if you hurt yourself like that could have long-term consequences. Also, one thing, like again, the hand warmer, those things are not cheap. If you buy a pack, like if you don't have the money, like if you're putting like some cheap ass, nasty ass coffee in your dirty ancient Mr. Coffee thing that looks like it's full of disease because you can't buy a $1 cup of coffee from McDonald's, you are not buying a $15 packet of disposable hand warmers from CVS. Those things are expensive.
And like the way it was played was just cheap too, because it's like he puts it in his pants and you think something more is gonna make of it, but he just looks at her like an idiot, just like and then a couple of seconds later like the thing happens.
Right.
It's just so like awkwardly paced.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is the next thing. So Craig Robinson, I think he does great with what he's given, but like he the very first dialogue he has is the Indian shop owner guy comes up to him and he goes like, oh, I need you to come in on Thanksgiving. He's like, oh, I can't. Oh, well, I need you to come in on the next day, Black Friday. And he goes, you want me to come in on Black Friday? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, give me a break.
It felt a little bit like the same joke from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back with the Chris Rock character, where it's like, oh, this black guy is gonna make everything about people being anti-black, and like, he's gonna take offense at everything.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this black guy's never heard of Black Friday before, and he's gonna take offense to it. Like, no, that's a common thing that someone who works in a fucking shop would know.
And it's like, you know, there are certain things that, again, this movie, over 10 years old, and really in 2008, that was a significant amount of time ago. There have been a lot of conversations that have happened since then, and there is something about that particular joke of, look at this minority taking offense at something ridiculous.
That's not really offensive, but
right.
You know, yeah.
And like that kind of joke, and I'm not sitting here just to rake Kevin Smith over the coals, but looking back at it now, because I don't think
there were a lot of movies with jokes like that, though.
Right,
yeah.
and I don't think he was like being uniquely horrible or whatever.
Yeah, but with the white guy who did something that was misconstrued, But
like looking back now and saying like that kind of joke, it's not great because the butt of the joke is ultimately minorities getting offended over stupid shit. And,
instead of what it usually is like white guys saying something horrible and like, you know what I'm saying?
Which also, like, here's the really weird thing if you juxtapose those two things is right near the end, Jeff Anderson's character, who is, by the way, never indicated intended to be racist at all. At the very end, just casually throws out, well, I was a white supremacist before I did this.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I think he just kind of casually goes, man, fuck you, or something, and then moves on.
Yeah.
And never reacts to it properly, which is like, I'm sorry, anybody
yeah.
you hear that this guy you've been working with who's in your home is a white supremacist, or at least was a white supremacist until 3 months ago, like, you're gonna have more of a reaction to that, especially if you are already established as somebody who takes offense to any perceived racism. Like, it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's right, because in the movie he gets mad, yeah.
So it's that inconsistency of like, okay, so you're gonna get mad that somebody said Black Friday, but also you like don't even bat an eye at somebody saying that he was a white supremacist and he's like literally in your house.
And
what?
And the name of the company being Nigger Rich Productions was just so like,
that was that
such a cheat.
Yeah,
and then I think like someone else just randomly says it too, and it's just like,
that
is
was
the pop
like
just supposed to be white guy said the N-word?
That's what because I think Seth Rogen said it and it was just like, really? Are we really just gonna do? Yeah.
Speaking of offending minorities, but yeah, the problem with those jokes like that is that what they end up doing is, because like this is what, like, I could swear I would see anytime there was like issues of like racial white guy saying something wrong, the joke always ends up being, but he wasn't really racist, it's just this black guy completely misconstrued what the situation was. In fact, there was an episode of King of the Hill where it was like Bernie Mac, I think I told you about it, where it's like Bernie Mac comes in and he's a handyman or something like that, and he's working on something, and Lady Bird, Hank's dog, barks at him, and it's like, oh, you find out like, oh wait, he didn't bark at this white guy, but he barked at him, oh, it's because he's racist. But then later on in the movie you find out, in the show it's like, oh, it's not because she was racist, you see, it was a misunderstanding, she just didn't like when someone else, said what to do in whatever specific random fucking situation that thing was, and so it's like, oh, it is to laugh, oh, what a misunderstanding. But then, earlier in the episode, like, he takes a quiz that, like, says that he actually is, like, has racial biases, and then, of course, in the middle of the episode, you have Chris Rock come in and be like, oh, look, I'm the guy who says that you don't have a racist bone in your body, Hank Hill, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah, well, and in this particular case, the person perpetrating the not racism is Indian, and, And
I feel like they tried to sidestep it by doing that.
But that also, in a way, almost even plays into that particular joke even more, because it's like, oh, look how ridiculous he's being that he's including this non-white person as being racist. And it's like, okay, but like, not in this case, obviously telling somebody to work the day after Thanksgiving is not racist. But like, non-black people of color can be anti-black.
Yeah, and the real issue
that's not a gotcha, like.
Well, the real issue is he's asking this guy to come in and work right after a fucking holiday, and that's annoying as shit. And I feel like maybe if the issue was like, why are you asking the black guy to come in? Or like, it's just some sort of thing that could actually be plausible.
They could have played into that tension in a way that wasn't the stupid, like, why's it gotta be black?
Why's it gotta be Black Friday?
Right.
Like,
that,
come on.
Yeah.
Like, that's always the joke that movies or TV shows with this sort of writing go for. There's no actual problem, it's just the black person misinterpreted, either on purpose or not, what this white person meant,
Right, and again, I don't think that Kevin Smith thinks that, like, racism doesn't exist. I don't think he was thinking of it to that degree. Yeah. I just think that unconsciously, or not, those kinds of jokes play into an attitude that you should always just dismiss people getting offended as being silly.
Yeah.
Now, so as the queer TM, I would like to express my feelings on this. Okay, because I know, yeah. So
let's get right into it. So the reunion.
So Justin Long, I have really strenuously ambivalent feelings about this, because on the one hand,
I think his performance was fantastic.
Like, okay, all right. So basically, I feel very conflicted because,
voice.
Like, on the one hand, like, yes, he is a straight guy playing, yes, he's a straight guy, he's playing gay stereotypes out the wazoo.
True,
it's like,
very true.
Okay, like so many kind of immature gay jokes and butt sex jokes and blah, blah, blah. But god damn it, is he having fun, and it's adorable.
It's like, I don't see Justin Long do enough stuff, goddammit.
Like, I freaking love Justin Long, and frankly, like, we should do Tusk next.
Oh, God!
I've seen it.
I don't think it's gonna be as funny in that movie.
He's not funny. I wouldn't say it's funny. No, I've seen Tusk and Now You Have To, but
that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but no, I adore Justin Long. Have I told my Justin Long story?
No, you have not.
I'm going to tell my Justin Long story. So I used to be a ghost tour guide. I told ghost stories on a tour of Savannah, Georgia, and Justin Long shot a movie once in Savannah, Georgia, where he was in historical costume. I think what was it, The Conspirators. So he was shooting The Conspirators. He was in historical costume, and I was like 23 or 24 or something, and I was leading a ghost tour group past the historic Pink House restaurant. And so the Pink House, quote unquote, has a ghost. You know, there's a ghost story there about the proprietor who, you know, died in 1800, whatever. James Habersham Jr. was his name. And we're walking outside the Pink House, and I know that at one point or another they had like actors walking around in costume portraying the former owners. And I saw this guy who looked vaguely familiar to me, but I couldn't place him, sitting outside the Pink House in 1800s outfit. And so I pointed him out and I was like, there's James Habersham Jr., you guys. and so we all walk by and we're filing past, and I look at him again and I realize it's Justin Long, who, needless to say, is not the ghost of James Habersham Jr. So after my tour group dispersed, I came back and he was still out there, and I said, hey, I'm sorry that I said you were the ghost of James Habersham Jr. And he said, well, I don't know what he looks like, so I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what he looks like either. And I shook hands with him, and he was very nice. And then like a month later, I found out that apparently he really hates shaking hands. And I was just like, oh my God. So
you fucked it up.
I fucked it up twice.
Yeah,
so
didn't you know what you were doing?
Yeah, so I adore Justin Long, and he was very nice despite the fact that I both called him a ghost and also shook hands with him. So that's my Justin Long story. Anyway, so his performance as Brendan the porn star. So Brendan, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of gay stereotypes, and I think
that didn't bother me.
No.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like I'm the person who says it. No, but specifically what bothered me was Seth Rogen's reaction at one point.
So I want to get to that, and I will say again, putting this in context of this being 10 years ago and thinking about all the conversations that we have had since then, I think that if this movie were to have been made today, like, that wouldn't have flown. Mm-hmm. That would not have flown. Having the straight guy play this like very over the top sexualized gay character, and have like sort of so many of the jokes be about like he's gay and he has all kinds of gay sex, and I think that would have read as
like, what gay? Oh, isn't that silly?
Right.
Like, yeah.
But it's like, on the one hand, recognizing the problematic nature of that character, it doesn't come off as hateful. It doesn't come off like, because the thing is, like, his performance doesn't read as like, I'm gonna make fun of these faggots.
Yeah.
It reads as him, like, because for one thing, like, also, like, you brought up the voice, he's not doing a stereotypical lispy gay voice. Mm-hmm. He's made this choice to force his voice into an unnaturally deep register. Yes. And so he's speaking in the most husky, deep voice that he possibly can. And I think it's like his sexy voice. I think that's what that is. So he's not doing a stereotypical lispy gay voice. He's not doing sort of a limp hand thing. Like, he's playing...
I thought he was playing like Prince.
You know what I mean? Maybe. I guess, like, basically his performance seems to be, he's making these choices to portray a man who is very sexual, very confident, very comfortable in his sexuality, and then that merges with the writing to be this guy who is very, very open about his gay sex that he has on camera.
In fact, I think the joke becomes more about their relationship and the bickering than just being the jokes about them being gay.
And the bickering with Bobby, who's much less sort of, like, obviously Bobby is, there are a couple of sort of nods where he's like talking about hair gel early on, and it's supposed to be like, oh girl, come on. But, but Bobby also is obviously straight passing to the degree that Miri does not realize the whole time she's talking with him, and they have this bickering, and it's like, yeah, I guess like some of the joke is again, haha, gay, because if it was a straight couple having a similar argument of like, why, you don't behave yourself in public, and this is why you haven't met my mom, and blah blah blah, it wouldn't I don't think that would have been read as a joke, or like it wouldn't be enough to be a joke in and of itself. And it's like part of the joke is, haha, they're gay. I do think Zach's reaction is interesting because it's like, on the one hand, again, 10-year-old movie. If we had a movie today where a straight character was just sort of like gawking at this gay couple having a couple's argument and going, huh, they're just like us. And
the specific line where he's like, oh, they're like real people. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, that would read as like, what the hell is wrong with you? But I do think, like, coming at this from, it feels weird to say the time period when it's only 10 years old, but it really was.
You think in the sense of, like, we had never seen gay couples in a mainstream way before. So
if we're talking about mainstream media and the portrayal of queer people, that stuff has really changed a lot in the last 10 years. Hell, stuff has changed a lot in the last 5 years. So having him be like, yeah, he's being kind of a dumbass about it, but at the same time, him being like overwhelmingly positive, having him like how much he likes Brendan and how much he's like, what a cool guy. I think like for the, put in context.
For what it was.
For what it was.
For a Judd Apatow type of movie.
Right.
That actually
it feels weird we keep bringing up Judd Apatow because, like, obviously I don't think he was in, like, it's a Kevin Smith movie. Yeah. But frankly, for a Kevin Smith movie, it does seem pretty, and also keeping in mind, like, and I don't know this for 100% fact, but just my instinct as somebody who, like, has been an actor and also an improver, I feel like a lot of Justin Long's performance was improvised. Yeah. And so keeping in mind that a lot of this was him on camera in the moment trying to come up with stuff that a gay porn star would say, and not Kevin Smith slaving over a hot typewriter. That context, I can't be mad about it. It's like
you got me into the flip again. The Kevin Smith flip, where it's like, I think that this thing is actually homophobic, but when you think about it, it's actually kind of progressive.
Right. It's like, I mean, and again, if we were to have this exact movie come out in 2019, it would be a different conversation.
Yeah, because you'd be like, motherfucker,
come on, guys.
Know.
But 10 years ago, it was different, and I do think that, I can't be mad about it. I'm not going to say it was the most progressive, amazing thing in the world. It clearly was not, but I think it was fun, and I think that I think Justin Long was clearly having a lot of fun with this character and really playing up, like, keeping in mind, like, this is not just a gay man, this is a gay porn star, and really the person who kind of kickstarts the entire thing, because the entire reason that Zach has the idea to make a porn is because Brendan talks to him about it and says, yeah, I'm a porn star, here's the stuff I do, I make good money, here's how this works. So Brendan is kind of the
catalyst.
He's the catalyst. So
I want to talk about the actual porn for a second, because
please, let's.
This porn is fucking awful. Like, this who would this play for? Like, you ever just think about that for a second? Like, you're watching this movie and you're just like, okay, it's 2008, people have access to porn. Like, this isn't like the 70s where it's like, ooh, someone having sex on camera, isn't this crazy that this was filmed?
Frankly,
like,
and even 70s,
where would they get moved? Where would they be getting paid for this?
And frankly, like, even 70s porn, it's like, I've watched vintage porn, and it's like, yeah, the acting is pretty much always kind of wooden and bad, and the script writing is, like, often kind of awkward, but at least the production values are good, because if you're watching something to jerk off, you're not gonna want a shaky camera, you're not gonna want a boom mic falling into frame. So it's like, yes, it's realistic that the screenwriting and the acting are kind of silly, but, like, why would the production value be bad, and why would that be something that people are, like, completely fine with?
Why do you think this is, like, this porn, like, the Star Horse thing, maybe that could have gotten some money.
Yeah.
But Suck My Cockachito, it's based in a coffee shop. That's not going to go viral in 2000.
Right.
You know, like, and you're not making money off of that.
And also, like, so the scene where Zack and Miri have sex on the bags of coffee.
Completely.
So here's the thing. It's like, we see the Kevin Smith directed shots of that where it's beautiful, close-up shots of their lovemaking, and there's this great music in the background, and it's shot in a way that's frankly kind of a turn-on, because
you're like, oh man, look at this fucking Kevin Smith. Like, he knows how to direct a sex scene. Look at that.
Right, because because it's well shot softcore. But then when you zoom out to what in the in-universe filming actually is, it's like you're seeing them just sort of lying there on top of a bag of coffee, not even undressed all the way, with just like bad tinny porno music playing in the background, and it's just literally like watching two people lie there. It's like you're not seeing the close-ups of their faces, you're not seeing the sexy romantic music, whatever. And so like everybody who's there going, oh wow, you guys really had some chemistry and blah blah blah. Like frankly, like anybody who would actually be in the room would just be like, wow, you guys were just lying there like dead fish. What
I
are
thought
you
the
doing?
joke was gonna be that they sucked because don't they kind of bring it up at one point?
Right, because well, I mean, I think one
like all you guys did was just do this, but it looks great.
Because the thing is like,
but did it though?
And this is why like actually, you know, people are always telling kids like, hey, don't get your sex ed from porn. Don't think that that's what real sex is like, because what looks good on camera is not what feels good. Like frankly, what feels good a lot of the time is like being at angles to each other that doesn't look good on camera because you can't, like when you're watching porn, it's not just you want
they're making it to be looked at. Yeah.
Right, it's not just that you want to watch sex, you want to see you want to see as much of the attractive people's bodies as possible. And so like, you know, having a lot of skin to skin contact feels good. It doesn't look good on camera. And so that kind of thing, I feel like the quality,
like who the fuck would watch this?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, then we get, you know, they finish the movie and we get the coda because like, okay, so we've got the coda where they bring Zach, I almost forgot his name and it's in the title, I just wanted to say Seth Rogen. So they bring Zach down to the basement and they show him the almost finished movie, and then like we just see the sign of like him and Miri kind of squirming around like worms on top of the bags of coffee, and then cut to him tearing up, and it's like
oh, I really love her, wow.
It's like
that's not the resolution of the film though.
Right. And it's like, well, presumably, so when they decide to do that and they get back together, presumably they then shoot a better ending.
Yeah, but we're not really given that.
But we don't ever get to see that. All we know is that in the after credits sequence,
which I did not see at first, and that really incompletes the movie. Like when I hadn't seen that scene yet, I was like, so that's how it fucking ends? But when I saw that ending, I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's the logical conclusion. And they fucking cut it off.
Yeah, I don't understand why the after credit sequence was after the credits. Like,
oh my god.
The after credit sequence, because by the way, if you haven't seen the after credit sequence and you've seen this movie, like go back and watch it, because it's actually like, it's not like,
it at least ties it together.
It's really weird. It's not like bloopers or like a little quick thing. It's like a 10-minute scene or something.
It's a little instructional, not instructional, but like the promo video.
It's a promo video. So we've got like a good length of scene where what we find out is that sometime after the end of the plot, where Zack and Miri get together, sometime after they have gotten married and they have started a company, or actually it's with NR Productions. But they are, well, it's like
his is the production company, but
the production company is like funding them, and they have this service called Zack and Miri Make Your Porno, where
holy shit,
where they are running a company where rather than sort of making porn to be purchased and watched just by people, you know, by anybody, the idea is that couples hire them to shoot them as a porn, so that they can have their
brilliant.
Which is it's a really good idea. It's a really good idea. It makes sense. It's sweet, and they even
put after the credits.
And then the fun thing is they have like Brendan and Bobby like come back as like a real couple, endorsing them and saying how it means so much to them, and they made their sex tape and blah blah blah, and it's really nice. Now I will say they do have the kind of like intentionally bad production value of the promo, where it's like they're
overdoing it
again. They're like dropping boom mics, and they're like all, and
it's
they
like
don't
fucking all right. I get it.
It's like, guys, come on. And you know, and we never do get to see what they ended up making that was good enough that let them found this company.
The way it ends is just good, like, in the middle of the promo, they're like, you saw part 1 and you saw part 2 of the Suck My Cappuccino,
right?
And the great Star Wars that they made afterwards. It's like, all right, well, you're telling me all this great stuff that happened,
right?
like,
and I mean, and maybe I will say, like, maybe part of that was intentionally leaving it to the imagination, because you know we all have our own tastes, we all have what we think makes good porn, and so the idea of like not showing us but letting us imagine what, like, you know, what I imagine is the best version of that porn is not the same as what you imagine is the best version of that porn. So I do get the argument for leaving that to the imagination. But yeah, like that ending, because because it's like, okay, Zack and Miri getting together, like, yeah, that's happy, but also they're still in dire financial
exactly. That's where the movie...
So seeing that really happy ending is really nice, and I really wish that they'd put it before the credits, because most people are not necessarily gonna... It's not like a Marvel Universe movie where you're, like, used to waiting for that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, a lot of people are not gonna be waiting through 10, 15 minutes of credits to see that. So I really, yeah, that
was a mistake.
That really should have been before the credits. So yeah, if you have watched Zack and Miri make a porno and you have not seen that, go back and watch it, because it really ties the movie together.
And you know, maybe that's it. Like, maybe I would be able to forgive the awkward emotional beats of the third act if that wasn't supposed to be what we concluded on. You know, if what we concluded on was their actual success, then it would feel like a better narrative. But also, I was just thinking about this. Like, okay, so remember what they said at the beginning? Oh, we're doing a porno, and like, wouldn't it be great if you saw because the premise is like we are going to our high school reunion,
right? They kind of abandon that, the idea, because it's weird. I feel like this is something that got lost in rewrites or something, because
I think so too.
They have this whole bit where the Jennifer Schwalbach's character, who, you know, the little cameo she has, says we have this 800 people strong email list of everybody who's an alum of this high school, and he says, so these 800 people would want to see us fuck because we're somebody they're connected to, and then that gets completely abandoned.
And I was just thinking, that's such an awesome premise. Like, oh wow, imagine like, hey, these people that you thought were hot or whatever from your high school, yo, they're in a movie, or these people that you just knew, they're like, whoa, isn't it cool?
Right, which I guess their plan was, you know, we're just gonna put it online behind a paywall and email people and say, hey, just pay us $5 or whatever, and you can see this.
And then but then even going even further, it's like, okay, I thought they were gonna try to ask some of the people from the reunion, because just 2 people out of like 6 in this porno are appearing. No, if it would have been like, the idea is that you are going to see this porn because they are people you know, and that could have been a callback to maybe like Kevin Smith's whole idea of like making movies about, you know, personal things to him, and it's like, oh, this is like a sexual perverted version of that, but you know, there's still that sense of just like, hey, you know, this is something that people I knew made, you know what I mean? But like, you know what I mean? But like you said, that just gets kind of dropped.
I feel like that was something that got kind of put in an earlier draft, and then...
Because, I mean, you have the porn star boyfriend and the guy, like that, you know what I'm saying? Ask them to help out with it.
Yeah, you know? Like, it is a little odd. I feel like it was sort of just a bit of a Chekhov's email list that got dropped.
So, ultimately, though, I feel like this is a sub-Chasing Amy type of movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like, for sure.
It doesn't even try to have the tension that Chasing Amy has.
So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because, the comparison to Chasing Amy as being a romantic movie, as being about a couple and the conflicts and whatever, it definitely occurred to me. And I do think this is a really cute, fun movie. Like I said, I had a lot more, when I watched it the second time with the critique in mind, I had a lot more issues with it, but I still think it is a cute, fun movie. But yeah, I mean, if you're comparing it to Chasing Amy, it's not going to stand out.
All right, because, how about with this? We compare it to Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. That came out around that time, didn't it?
I actually have not seen Nick and Nora. But seriously, with Chasing Amy, because the thing is, Chasing Amy, part of it, okay, so I keep coming back to the idea of truthfulness. Chasing Amy is very, very emotionally truthful, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it was based on Kevin Smith's real experience, and based on Joey Lauren Adams' real experience. So there is, both in the writing and in her performance, there's a lot of emotional truth, whereas, and also it doesn't have the happy rom-com ending. It's not a rom-com. And Zack and Miri is much more of a formulaic rom-com of, here are these 2 people. They don't think they're in love, but we know they're in love, and then they start to feel like they're in love, and then they have a big fight and a big misunderstanding, and they hate each other, and then they get back together, and now they're in love, the end.
Yeah, it's good for a romantic comedy, but not good for a Kevin Smith movie. You know what I mean?
I think that's it. It's like, it's a cute, fun rom-com, but the problem with it, with the rom-com formula, is that, frankly, like, the rom-com formula is really bullshit and doesn't have a lot of emotional truth. It's like, how often in your life, I mean, you know, even, you know, with my partner, I've told stories about, like, how we got together. It was like, oh, I didn't realize that we were friends forever, and we are really compatible, but I didn't realize that at first, and I didn't realize all the ways we're compatible, and then we got together. But, you know, it was like, we were friends for a long time, then we realized that we were super compatible and into each other, and then we started dating, and then we got married. Like, you know, and it's like, yeah, you have fights and conflicts with people that you're in relationships with, but frankly, if you have a conflict with somebody over, like, a tiny misunderstanding that could be resolved with a 10-minute conversation, and you, like, storm off and don't talk to each other for 3 months because you couldn't sit down and have a 10-minute conversation like adults, that's not a good sign. And that's a sign that you should not be in a relationship with that person.
And that would be fine if this was, again, a meet cute about two people who had only known each other. These people had known each other for 10 years.
Yeah,
that's why I was specifically
it's like you've been friends.
You really don't want to talk. You know what I mean?
It's like you're not only going to throw out a potential relationship, you're going to throw out a 15, 20-year friendship because you can't sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Now, no, like I said, here's the thing that's frustrating is Elizabeth Banks' acting performance, I think, in the scene where she's being really perverse and she's saying, oh, I'm not in love with you, blah, blah, blah. It is, I think, very emotionally truthful, but the fact is that then the writing aspect of
the context with which
it's like, you know, because the thing is, realistically, those two people who've known each other for years, and she's being like that, they're gonna have a knockdown, drag out fight for like hours, and they're gonna be like, here's the thing, in real life, knowing those two people, they're gonna be in the back of that coffee shop screaming and fighting and arguing for like
talking about
hours
of life that maybe they were angry about
for fucking hours while everybody out there is like, guys, what's going on? Are we doing this? And then getting pissed at, like, that's gonna be the thing. They're not gonna just like storm out and split up and then not talk for, and he's gonna like
3 months
and he's gonna like pack up, move all of his stuff, which also, I'm sorry, no matter, like, how little do you own? Like, I've known some broke ass fucking people who are still not gonna be able to clean up their fucking room and pack everything and clean out and leave within like 20 minutes because we know what happens is that she hangs around and says, no, I can't do it, I can't funk Lester, and then leaves. So she's home like 20 minutes after him. No. You know, and then he doesn't say anything. Like, at the very least, even if he had stormed out and went home, she would have gotten home, found him packing in a snit, then they would have had the knockdown drag out fight for hours, and then gotten to the point that, like, you know, it's just, the rom-com thing is just not emotionally realistic, you know, and that's a conversation we have to have, like, can you fault a movie for being what it is?
Well, I think it's not specifically because you would think someone like Kevin Smith would transcend that expectation, right? Because, like, you've seen him do it before in other types of films. You know what I'm saying? So it feels specifically disappointing that, like, you really weren't going to go anywhere with that?
Yeah,
like,
because
you know?
because I think part of what is so satisfying about Chasing Amy is that it's not formulaic, and it follows the arcs of a real relationship where you have the, you know, like when Alyssa and Holden have that big fight in the rain where he's like, I want to be in a relationship with you, and she gets so mad at him, and rightfully so, and they have this big fight, and in a rom-com, that would have been they don't talk for 3 months or whatever, and then they get together and happy ending. Instead, no, she comes right back and goes, yeah, you're right, we're gonna get together, but I'm really fucking mad at you. They get together, conflicts arise in their relationship, they have fights, they have more fights, they end up breaking up. Like, that's a realistic relationship. And, you know, and the thing with Zack and Miri, it's like, my thing is, like, so there is, I don't remember the exact psychological terms, but there's something psychologically that happens when you grow up with somebody and you have sort of a sibling relationship with them that you cannot see them as sexual. And this is really to prevent incest. So you hear stories about people who, like, meet a half sibling or like a long lost sibling from, like, you know, adoption or sperm donation, or a dad cheated or whatever, and meet their sibling as adults and hook up with them. Like, that happens because it doesn't matter if you know somebody's related to you. If you didn't know them when you were a kid, psychologically you don't have that, oh, this is a sibling, right? So you hear stories about adults hooking up with people that they actually are siblings with because they don't have that. Likewise, if you have two adopted siblings who grow up together, or two step siblings, or anybody who grows up together where there's not a blood relationship, it doesn't matter if you say, hey, would you ever hook up with that person? They'll go, oh my God, that's my brother, that's my sister, what's wrong with you? Because they have that psychological thing. And the same thing happens, honestly, for like close friends. It's not just that Zack and Miri are close friends. They've known each other for a long time. Like I said, with my spouse, like we were friends for a long time, but we did not meet as children. We met in our young adulthood. We met at like college age. And if Zack and Miri, they literally have like known each other since kindergarten, I frankly have a hard time buying that they would ever have a sexual relationship.
See, I thought maybe one of them was going to be sexually attracted to them and maybe the other one wasn't. That's what I thought they were going to do.
Because the difficulty they have when, like, it's kind of played, because you have people who, like, know somebody that they're friends with as an adult, and it's like, hey, would you ever fuck this person? They're like, you know, that's my friend. And then they could end up being attracted to that person, and that's just their initial reaction. But Zack and Miri's, like, particularly Miri's, like, you know, you're like my brother. It's not just a girl going, you know, that's like my brother about somebody she thinks of as a friend. It's like, no, literally, if they've known each other since kindergarten, there should be something in their brains that is stopping them from considering each other as viable sexual partners, especially because, like, they're roommates. They do have a sibling relationship. So there is something kind of weird about that.
In fact, there's a scene at the beginning where he, like, walks in on her naked and he's like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry. And the way it's treated is as if, like, oh, yeah, if you walked in on your sister. You know what I mean? Like, they really do play it that way.
Yeah, and you know, and the thing is, like, that's not just, you know, it's not just a rom-com, like, oh, they think they're platonic, and aren't they silly, and we should overcome that, because clearly they're meant for each other. Really, you know, there genuinely is a taboo, and frankly, even if there isn't, but genuinely, I think also there is, I think sometimes there's a disrespect for platonic relationships, and a disrespect for platonic affection that the rom-com has, because it doesn't believe that, I mean, that's the whole premise of When Harry Met Sally, is that a heterosexual man and a heterosexual woman, you know, or like bisexual, you know, that's like Holden arguably in Chasing Amy is brainwashed by rom-coms, that even like a bisexual woman and a heterosexual man, like basically a man who's attracted to women and a woman who's attracted to men cannot be friends with each other. Eventually they will fall in love.
It's a heteronormative sort of view of things,
it's very heteronormative, and also just, again, there's a disrespect for platonic relationships, and I think that, you know, I cannot imagine being sexually attracted to somebody that I have known. Like, I mean, thinking of, like, I don't have that many friends that I have been consistently friends with from that age, but I have one or two, and, you know, like I said, I'm bi, so, like, gender doesn't even come into it, but they're both, you know, genders that I'm attracted to, and the thought of being sexually or romantically attracted to either one of those people is horrifying, because again, they're people that I have that sibling, like, I've known them since I was a kid. So, yeah, frankly, I don't buy Zack and Miri ever being in love or wanting to fuck or either of those things. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that I think maybe if they'd met in high school, I would buy it more. If they had not met prepubescent, I would buy it a little more. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot that's not emotionally truthful about the writing, and that comes down to the rom-com formula.
Yeah. So that's basically it. If you've heard everything that we said, still want to watch the movie, I mean, go right the hell ahead.
It's cute. Here's the thing. I'm not saying this is a shitty movie, don't watch it.
Yeah, it's not, it never reaches Mallrats, the version I saw back.
No. I think the problem is that because it is by Kevin Smith, we cannot help but compare it to Chasing Amy, and it's not gonna, because Chasing Amy is frankly a masterpiece, and any love story that Kevin Smith directs is going to be put up in comparison to Chasing Amy, and
because it is a movie that was so, like,
and is gonna suffer in that comparison. But that said, I think it's cute. I think it's funny. I think it's got a lot of really enjoyable performances. I think that it's just fun, and it's fun.
You recommend it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I like seeing Jason Mewes get to be somebody other than Jay.
You're right. There's enough in it to enjoy, but I think you will definitely have lots of moments of going.
I think literally all of the side characters characters are, I mean, this is not unusual for any kind of movie, but I think all the side characters are way more enjoyable.
Yeah. I'm thinking about
like Craig Robinson.
Craig Robinson. Jay,
Craig
Katie,
Robinson.
Yeah.
Jay, Kate, like all of the porn actors. You know, totally. Okay, you know who it's not even gonna be a thirst corner because it's gonna take 2 seconds. My thirst corner is the woman credited as auditioning girl.
The chick who took off the shirt.
The girl at the beginning who's like, he's like really, he's like, I want to see your titties, but if you're uncomfortable, which by the way was so funny, like was so. I loved that whole scene. I loved his his obvious discomfort, and then
look, I really want to see titties, but I don't want to feel like a bad person.
And her just standing there going like, okay, and then just taking her dress off. My thirst corner is for that lady. She's very beautiful. She has a very beautiful body. The end of thirst corner.
But that's the movie. You know what I'm saying? Yep. See it at your own peril or enjoyment.
It's basically it's a lot of fun. Just don't go into it with high expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And next time, what are we gonna be doing? What's the next?
I think we gotta watch Tusk next.
No, wait, hold on a second. I'm gonna make sure this shit is right.
What did you do next? I don't know.
Red State.
Red State.
I vote for Red State. I'm not watching Cop Out.
Wait. All right.
Only if you donate to our Ko-fi. If you donate to our Ko-fi.
I don't even know about Cop Out. I think I saw it and I had to look
Bruce
up the
Willis and Tracy Morgan.
Oh, weird. Okay. No, okay. So basically, all right, I'll tell you what. We'll just in the interest of chronology, we'll watch Red State first and then Tusk. Yeah. Also, I haven't seen Red State. I have seen Tusk. We're not eating before Tusk.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Yeah. All right. Do your outro.
Yeah. We've been your hosts, John and Talking to Evan, and we'll see you next time, or you'll hear us next time on the
we'll see you. We are watching all.
Yeah,
of you.
Exactly.
You dirty motherfuckers.
We're making sure you're actually enjoying the shit.
Yes.
You better be laughing, bitch. All right.
Bye.